So hello everyone, we are very happy to be here. Thank you very much for having us today. I'm Laura and this is Cristian. We are co-founder of NetMinds and we are going to tell you what is NetMinds about. We're going to tell you about our journey and how we have learned about the collaborative thinking and how we use that as a value for our company. So before everything, I just want to say that if you're wondering where's this accent from, it's from Colombia. And I'm saying it also because Cristian has the same accent. And I'm making the difference between cities because probably if you know Medellin, you might know why. And then Robert's smiling, so probably you got it. And yeah, so basically we met in the UK. We came to do our masters and it was funny because, I mean, two Colombians having to meet in the UK to start a business, but here we are. And we started innovation and creativity at Newcastle. And perhaps one of the things that got our minds the most was the concept of open innovation and how challenges nowadays are so hard that solo companies can't solve them themselves because everything gets so challenging. So resources have to start being shared. And the concept of open innovation says that opening your company to achieve better innovation while sharing the risk associated with them and also by sharing costs. So we're going to see some examples later on, but I just wanted to mention this was perhaps the concept while we were studying our masters that gave us the thought that there was an opportunity to start generating a space where we can generate partnerships and help entrepreneurs or innovators match to each other to generate collaborations that could provide them with better business models and with better opportunities to achieve their milestones. So that's how NetMinds started first as a platform to match universities with businesses for innovation projects. But when coronavirus happened, we couldn't involve with universities anymore. They were more like, yeah, mental health of the students, they shift into virtual teaching. So everything that had to be with innovation and collaboration with businesses was not on the radar anymore as something that was a priority. So we started seeing the funding opportunities for entrepreneurs and a lot of people saying like innovation, it's gonna suffer, young entrepreneurs, what are the opportunities that they have? So we said, it doesn't really make sense, you know, like, of course, that's the reality, but there is something we can do about it. So that's how we pivoted to what is NetMinds today. And it's an ecosystem that provides entrepreneurs with collaboration opportunities to keep evolving, lowering risk, and reducing the money obstacles. So we're going to keep explaining how that happens. And we started to think that there was important to learn how to work and think collaboratively. And for this, I want to start saying there is a difference between thinking collaboratively and working collaboratively. So when we work collaboratively, and it's something that everyone that is going to do the hack is going to start to experience, is when we have Miro or Google Sheets or Zoom even, where everyone is contributing to the same thing with skills and knowledge. But when you think collaboratively, you're not just thinking about that purpose. You're not just thinking about your company, but you're also thinking about everything that is outside that can complement what you're doing as well. And I'm making this difference because oftentimes the concept of competition or competitive advantage is even more known than the concept of collaboration and partnerships. And it's important that instead of always thinking about how am I differentiating myself or my company from someone else, it's also how, if I collaborate with someone else, or if I join forces with this other person or this other company, I'm gonna be in a different level. And also how the value of these collaborations and these thinking and working collaboratively shifts and change. Because we have the value of money, but also we have the value of the skills and knowledge. And if we put them together, of course, money pays for skills and knowledge, but the work is not going to be done without skills and knowledge. And what we mean by this is that if we have two companies working together, merging skills and knowledge and not necessarily being client and supplier to each other, there are amazing things that can come from there. So from there, we have that it's all about aligning purpose, matching expertise, and improving the efficiency and success of collaborative efforts.
Okay, so to understand a little bit more about these two concepts, so I'm gonna say like a little definition of each one. Has been according to the experience we have had and also my previous experience in the business ecosystems. We're going to give two examples because it may be difficult to just from theory understand these two concepts. So the first thing is purpose. And here there is an important differentiation. So it's different when you have a team or a project that is working collaboratively, you have a purpose for the whole project, but each person that is in the project has his own purpose. And that is fine. I mean, it's very difficult for, if you have 5 people in a project, for everyone to have the same purpose. And that's okay. Each person can have their own personal agenda. The important thing is that the purpose of the project must be aligned. We're gonna give an example later, but the important thing to understand here is that each person can have their own personal agenda, but everyone needs to have the same understanding of the purpose of the project. Now, moving to the expertise, this is about being conscious about your superpowers and blind spots. So here is something that we found when we were working with the startups, and we ourselves are a startup. Every co-founding team from a startup has superpowers. So maybe you are an expert on marketing, on law, but you have no idea about coding. And then you have another startup that is expert in coding. How can we help each other to cover our blind spots and use our superpowers to help each other? In that way, you could leverage on the superpowers of each one and maximize the impact of each company. So these are the two concepts, the two main ones that we want everyone to understand today. So we're gonna give 2 examples. We're gonna be a personal one from one collaboration that we did as NetMinds. And then we're gonna give you an example from 2 large corporations, a collaboration made between P&G and Unilever. That's like seeing a collaboration between Pepsi and Coca-Cola, but we're gonna see how it worked for them also. So this is the first one. So we have been discussing with Brooklyn Law School. They have a clinic specifically for startups. So what they do is that they give the opportunity to students to have real world practice of what they have learned during the law school, but practicing doing pro bono practice with startups. And they're doing in a very close network back in New York. So when we started discussing the and we found out about what they were doing, we thought, oh, this will be amazing also for the ecosystem of the startups that we have right here. Now, what we saw here is NetMinds. In NetMinds, we have an ecosystem and a network of startups here in the UK and in Europe that we understand and know how to move around it, but we have no idea about law. I mean, I cannot even read a document from a lawyer. So what we have to see is, okay, we have this blind spot. We don't have no idea about law. They have a blind spot that they want also to get into the market of the UK and Europe, and they don't have a network span the practice that they want to do. So what we did was a partnership where we're gonna share the information between the startups and the clients that we have. And in that way, the benefit we got is we both got access to a new market just by doing this partnership. We're getting more exposure to more startups and more potential users, but also our services and our help is getting to more people as being improved. Because now our startups, the startups that are in NetMinds, can have the help from NetMinds and also from the law school. Startups there are starting to get the help also from NetMinds as well as the law school. So here you can start seeing that the purpose of the Brooklyn Law School is about improving the employability of their students. And the purpose of NetMinds is about reaching out more startups. But at the end, the collaborative project is the same. We both want to get our own service to more people, right? So there you see the alignment of purpose. Now let's see a more risky one, and maybe something that initially when I saw it, it was very difficult for me to comprehend how these 2 companies could work together. So in here, the problem was about the chemistry of water. So P&G and Unilever, most of their products are on water. Like one of the main ingredients is water. So they needed to work out on their laboratories how to work better with water to improve the efficiency and impact of their innovations. The thing is, they have huge resources and they have huge labs, each one of them. But what they saw is that to get to the level that they require to do some of their innovations they wanted, it will take 5 or 10 years to do it. But when they were started to realize, okay, I have a competitor, so P&G, so Unilever, and Unilever, so P&G, that is doing exactly the same. I could join forces with him or with the other company. I will have the double of resources and the double of impact. So they decided to do it. What happened here is that they shared risks, this very difficult and challenging project, but also the time, it didn't reduce to the half. It reduced even 3 or 4 times just by doing these collaborations, and the same happened with the cost. So here we see that each of them had their own purpose on why they are doing it. They wanted to develop their own products, but they did a collaborative project where the purpose was the same. They wanted to understand better the chemistry of water. And in that way, a collaborative project was done. So according to these 2 examples, I mean, these are the 2 examples that we brought today because we think they explain a lot better the creative thinking concept that we have in NetMinds. We also thought, okay, so how these 2 examples and how this could be a framework that we use in our everydays or even in the hackathon. So what we saw here, we tried to understand what were the main concepts that were common on all these projects that have research. And it's these 4 stats. So I'm gonna explain a little more about those. So the first thing is about the purpose. So think about in the hackathon, you're gonna start working. So it's very important that each team member writes down the purpose of the project and share it with everyone. It's like when you do the paraphrasing word or talking to someone. It's very important that everyone understands that the same purpose for the project. Once everyone understands the purpose of the project, you define the scope. To define the scope, you define 2 things. So it's the expectations and concerns from each person. And the expectations are divided in 2, in what you're expecting as the outcome of the project, but also what is expected from you. And this is very important because at the end, that's something that can cause a lot of fights and struggle in a team when a person doesn't understand the scope of their work against others. And then after having the scope, you can define roles. So as we were saying before, if you define each person's superpowers and blind spots, and then you can start matching together, you will realize every time that you're making decisions during the project, it will be easier to understand who to work with, but also it will be a lot faster to understand how your superpowers can leverage and maximize the impact. So finally, when you have these 3 things together, you can go into action. And what is very important here, and something that Laura was mentioning before, is that it's not only to start working with the people that you're already together with, but also that while you're working, you can start realizing what other collaboration can be around you. You have to be very aware of your surroundings to start evolving.
Yeah, and perhaps one last takeaway that we want to provide for this hackathon and to solve challenges is how to think collaboratively in the sense of it is a strategy, but it can also be a business model. And the way I like to explain this is give it the example of retail marketing strategies. So probably you don't have it in your mind right now, but next time you go to the supermarket or to the grocery shop, if you look where is the pasta, you'll see the pasta is next to the sauce. And if you see the eggs, most likely the eggs are next to the cakes or many other things. Same happens with the cheese and probably things for breakfast or ham, because those are complementary products. So when you go to a shop and you see the pasta, more likely you're gonna buy the sauce, and so on. So if we do this as an analogy to how projects and companies work, it might work the same. Partnerships and collaborating with others might be a strategic action that you do, but then in the long run, depending on how you plan it and depending on the partnerships that you create, it can generate a business model because you're taking your skills, you're taking all the resources that you have in your company, but also you're taking the resources of someone else and bringing them into your company without necessarily making them suppliers, but you're making them your partners. So that's the last takeaway, just for you to think collaboratively, to think about how to solve challenge, but also see how other projects that other people are working on might also be complementary for you. So if your project is a pasta, then try to find a project that is a sauce. Thank you.
Brilliant. We'll do our silent applause. Thank you so much. So does anybody have any questions for Laura and Cristian? I'm inspired to go find the sauce to my pasta product now. So
I have a question.
Go for it.
I think it's a very good idea and something that is badly needed. But of course, like I really do think it's a very good idea. But as all the ideas, the main issue is the operationalization of all this, and how are you going to manage to build something at scale without in a frictionless experience for both sides of the people you're trying to put in touch, and that can be quite challenging. And so I was wondering what's your plan to try to make this happen, because that's really where they're going to be the main difficulty for you, to have a standardized approach and yet like this this experience that satisfies both sides.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have done is do a lot of research in past collaborations and also do collaboration ourselves. And from there, we have identified different conditionals that help those partnerships generate. And at the moment, we're working on an algorithm with the data that we have collected from the people that we have inside of our network, to see those patterns and to see the affinity between different members, taking these conditionals that we have studied in our masters, but also along our experience. And it is a challenge, as you said, but so far it has worked. And we are just seeing how, from the manual work that we're doing at the moment, that's going to be put into an algorithm that it's going to be able to do some machine learning with the conditionals that we have learned. I don't know if you want to say something.
Yes, and I think the main answer to that is, we are learning from experience. We're doing matching, like, let's say that the algorithm is our hands and our minds, right? So right now what we're doing is trying to match people and startups to solve it. And from there, we have learned, for example, the things that we had said before, but also we have learned about which type of people is more eager to do this type of collaboration. Because that's something that is very interesting right now, is that it's not necessary for everyone, but the good thing is, if you get those early adopters that are going into the collaboration cycle, then you can start adding up others. And that's what we have seen. We have come to some people that say, no, that collaboration, that's a strange word, I would not like to do that. But after they see the colleagues collaborating and seeing the value that is for them, they start to get into it. So this is something that we're building up in the ecosystem that we already have, and it's starting to expand just by word of mouth. So it's one another way of putting it. Yeah.